Hey everybody, we are going to try to get kind of a little groove back in getting these messages recorded for you. Had a little bit of hiccup the last couple weeks. I do apologize for that. And we were actually going to have the audio up yesterday, but power went out in Milan and we we didn't get that recorded. So we're going to start today. It's a new series. Been thinking a lot. Everything that's going on in the world and all the craziness around us. And everybody's been wanting us. We just was like, we hear this phrase over and over about it being the new normal. And it got me thinking, I'm wondering if we ever really knew normal. Like, I don't think this is the way that God intended us to be and behave and to act and react. And so we're going to look at that because we live in some pretty raucous times. So glad to have you back, and hope you enjoy this. And we're thinking of you. We love you. Hope to see you soon. I'm going to start off today with a parable that Jesus teaches in Luke's Gospel, the 18th chapter, verses 9 through 14. To some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Luke's Gospel, the 18th chapter, verses 9 through 14. And this tax collector, he's the one that Jesus said is that sinner. Sinner is going home justified. Justified meaning to be put in a right relationship with God. To look again at verse 9, because that's pretty telling. Before the parable even starts, Luke records that Jesus' audience was this: to some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else. Those who were confident in their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else. We are living out this parable right now. Online and in person, we are living this out. We are asserting our own moral superiority while condemning others. And that leads to this question: how can we be agents of peace in polarizing times? How can we breathe shalom or peace or unity or encouragement and edification? Something that is building up instead of tearing down. So we live in a time where moral grandstanding is all over the place. You may even call it virtue signaling. It's using moral talk for self-promotion and ego enhancement. There's a quote from a former moral grandstanding junkie said this: every time I would call someone racist or sexist, I would get a rush. That rush would then be reaffirmed and sustained by the stars, the hearts, and thumbs up that constitute the nickel and dimes of social media validation. And then William Shakespeare said, and as you like it, all the world's a stage. And right now, everybody's got some time on that stage, and they want their voices to be heard. In this age of moral grandstanding, it's not only what you say, but the motivation behind why you say it. And that motivation pushes us in two directions. The first one is how we actually engage with people, whether in person or online. And the other one is, what's my motivation? Why am I using the means that I'm using? Why am I feeling this way? And that's a hard issue. Now, let's be honest. Social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Parler, MeWe, whatever else there is out there. We do that because it gives us a place, one, to have community, two, to get our voice out. But the underlying one that nobody wants to talk about is those things are all really popular because they get to have a place now where our ego needs are met. And many get their ego needs met by taking a strong moral stand publicly to get the affirmation of their peers. So we'll denounce, we'll call out, and we'll point out the wrongs of others in a way that those people hate us, but our own tribe loves and affirms us. So it's not really about the person we're against. It's about the people who already agree with us. So here's the thing. We post something, and that's going to inflame some. And then we'll get likes and yeses and amens, and we feel good about it. And we're posting for the hit. We're posting because it feeds an ego need. And this encourages us down an unhealthy pathway that doesn't do any good for the world we live in, and it certainly isn't any good for our souls. Because we're shrinking inside. When we sit behind a screen and we yell and tear down, and everyone around us, little by little, we become less than what God created us to be. Because now we look at everything as either it's fight or flight. It's either attack or we retreat. We'll go hide, we'll run away, we'll quiet down, or we'll disappear. And I think one of the sad results of moral grandstanding is that some who have value to contribute back away because they see the mess that's out there and they don't want any part of it. So the best and the brightest don't enter the ring because they feel like they'll be casting pearls to pigs where no one has ears to hear. And there's some real problems with moral grandstanding, especially for believers. First one is this: outrage is rewarded. The meaner and uglier and nastier you get, the more you're rewarded. The more hate you can spew out, the more you can tear down, the more likes you get from people who are mad and hating the same things you are, and you get rewarded. Outrage is rewarded, not outreach. The second one is nuance is punished, because nuance doesn't sell online. Nuance is that thing that gives you the ability to see beyond what the story is showing you on the surface, to get below, to see what's really causing these feelings. We don't have that anymore. It's black or white. You're either wrong or you're right. You're with us or you're against us. The third one, and I think this is the most dangerous and the most heartbreaking, is that the problem with moral grandstanding is that grace is rejected. We don't give grace. And that's not the way that Jesus acted and lived, and that's not the way we are supposed to if we're followers of him. The other one is prejudices are reinforced. It's the power of the algorithms. Everything you search for, all the things you post, it draws more people that post and think the same way. So all of a sudden you're surrounded by people that think the exact same way that you do. And because of that, then partisan polarization is normalized. There is no center. I remember years back, John Mellencamp had a song, I think it's called Between a Laugh and a Tear. It had a great line in it, one of the greatest lines I think he ever wrote. He says, "I know there's a balance. I see it when I swing past." That's us. We're either far left or we're far right, but we're not ever going to be in the center again until we change. Now, the Bible uses some pretty aggressive language. And I'm saying this because somebody out there right now is going, "Well, John, don't we sometimes have to take a stand?" And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you have to take a stand. But how do we take a stand for what we truly believe in and in a right way that still honors people and values them like Jesus did? I'm going to say that again. How do we take a stand for what we truly believe in and what we truly believe is right in such a way that it still honors people and values them, even the ones who don't think the way we do? Because that's how Jesus did and lived. How can citizens, soldiers, and ambassadors of Christ tear down bad ideas, sin ideas, and they're out there? How can we tear down bad ideas while building up the people who espouse them and other people who are observing? Because like I said, the Bible has some pretty aggressive language when it comes to dismantling bad ideas and sin ideas that are going to do harm to people. Belief systems that are just wrong. Some of those words are like attacking, being at war with, tearing down strongholds. So when you look at that, when we come face to face with those bad ideas, those sin ideas, those not of God ideas, we're called to attack. And we're called to imprison, and we're called to erase. But that same Bible teaches us that our attitudes towards people, out of whose mouths those words come, or out of whose fingers those ideas are typed, those folks who promote those bad ideas, our attitude towards them should be one of embrace, of edifying, and encouraging. Because when it's all said and done, we are to build people up while tearing down bad ideas. And we may be full on tearing down bad ideas, but we should be building up folks as we go along. So in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 9 through 17, and chapter 3, verses 15 through 17, which is where we're kind of at today in this message, Peter's going to talk about both our identity, that we are not just part of the culture of this world, and then give us ways that should manifest itself in the lives that we live. Starting with 1 Peter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into this wonderful life. There's some words there, man. Chosen people. That's inclusive. That's Jews and Gentiles. That's saints and sinners. That's church folk and the bar crowd. He's calling you our chosen people. Where he's giving this to, when they use the word people, it's the word genos, and it means a new race, a new category of ethnicity. And Peter is trying to raise a new type of emotional sense of identity within us. Jews and Gentiles, red, yellow, black, and white, all of them are precious in his sight. But these Jews and Gentiles are now together. They were once enemies, and now they're family. God's chosen. And Peter echoes Paul's sentiment in Ephesians 2, and he talks about this royal priesthood. And I'm telling you, this royal priesthood blows up religion, because he's saying that we're all priests, that we're a nation of priests, a holy nation. Going on to verse 10. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Once we didn't know any better, but now we should know better, because we have been given this mercy. We have been given this gift. Look, we're immersed in a culture that at times has a value system that is waging war against our souls. And we are right here. We are fully here. We're immersed in it, but we are not home. This is not our home. We're in the world. We're not of it. Verse 11. So, dear friends, I urge you, as foreigners and exiles, to abstain from sinful desires, which wage war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us. As we know this, look, the teaching of Jesus are going to be considered foolish to just about everybody in the world. They're considered foolish. We're considered fools for following them. Laying down your life rather than taking the worldly life that's there, sacrificing for others, humbling yourself to be a servant from the bottom up, loving your enemy, forgiveness. Look, to some people, that's just plain foolishness. Crying out loud, for some Christians, that's just plain foolishness. But we're called to live them anyway. And I don't know if what they see of us in person or online, they would know that we live that way. Luxby Cravey says this: you don't have to be a Christian to recognize a jerk online. And you don't have to be a Christian to be a jerk online. But as a Christian, you should never be a jerk online, because non-Christians will see it. Don't find jerkiness with more jerkiness. Focus on following Jesus and then being salt and light. Verse 5. Be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. That's from Colossians chapter 4, verses 5 through 6. A non-Christian or a non-believer should come away from our tweets, our Facebook posts, and our conversations with, you know what, I don't agree with that, or else I'd be a Christian. But at the same time, they should come away with it going, that interaction blessed me. That was tasty. I mean, that was so positive. It was so good. And it left me wanting more of what they have. Verse 13, 2 Peter, or 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13. Submit yourselves to the Lord for the Lord's sake to every human authority. Let me say that again. I don't want to mess this up because this is kind of contentious right now. Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right. For it is God's will that by doing good, you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as God's slaves. There's a lot of stuff right there. But it tells us that we are to live free, but it's not as an excuse. We don't flaunt our freedom as an excuse for how we act or how we treat other people. Because in the end of that, he says that we are to live as fully as God's slaves. And I don't want to sugarcoat and try to dumb down the meaning of that word slaves. We are slaves to Christ. Bob Dylan even says this, man, you're going to serve somebody. It may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but we're all going to have to serve somebody. Verse 17, show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. Key verse. Respect. Respect equals value. Hold everyone you interact with in high value. Honor them, respect them, because they are loved by God. And I don't care if you are for Joe or for Donald. And by the time you hear this, I don't know what the election results are. And that's not what this is about. Because either way, it doesn't matter. To me, it's saying we're to honor the emperor. We're to honor those who are put in those positions because our God's big enough. If he didn't want them in there, they wouldn't be in there. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. We can disagree. And we can challenge positions. But as Christians, we should show value. We should show respect. Because in doing so, we're showing Christ. From 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. I think that's the thing. And we're only going to do this if we rally around Jesus as Lord and put him at the center. And that starts by putting him at the center of our lives first and letting him make our hearts right. And then people want to engage with us because whether they agree with us or not, they'll say, why are you so positive? Why are you so full of hope? Where's that coming from? But here's the reality, friends. Problem is, now they're not saying that because they're not seeing it. They're saying, why are you so negative? Why are you so judgmental? Why are you so hateful? Why do you feel like you're so superior? We'll talk more about this next week, but before we get there, it's a matter of realigning our hearts, trying to figure out why do we speak out and how we speak out, or why do we not speak out? I think one of the reasons is desire. It's an egotist motivation because I feel so much and need to express it. I need to be my authentic self, right? I've got to be me. Maybe it's duty. Maybe it's moralistic motivation. Because I believe I need to stand up for and defend the truth. Okay. But what if it's devotion? What if it's altruistic motivation where you say, because I love Jesus and because he loved me and because I wasn't deserving of the love he showed me first, and because I'm his disciple, I choose to love others the way that Jesus loves me. We'll talk more about this next week. Hope you're doing good. God bless. Praying for you. And if you have any needs, hit us up on the Facebook page or the website. We love you. We're thinking about you. And we'll talk to you soon. God bless.